Hey, hello everybody, and welcome back to On the Verge. Today is Wednesday, May 7th, and we've got some exciting guests coming on today with us that are running for local, positions on local committees. So anyway, what we're going to do, we normally do, we start out with our introduction. So I'm going to start with Trent first today.
I'm Trent Drake. I am the Douglas County Republican Central Committee Chair.
And our guest for today, Natasha.
Hi, Natasha Atkinson, and I am the CEO of UHI. We support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities here in Douglas County.
Well, thank you. So again, On the Verge podcast it's a bipartisan podcast. We don't get excited about political issues one way or the other, but we do talk about politics. And I am your House District 2 representative. I'm a Republican, so we do have a little bit of a lean toward the Republican side, but we also talk to Democrats and, middle of the road folks, non-affiliated voters. Doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is what's important for the community. That's all that matters. We want to make sure that we're doing good by the folks that I represent anyway. Anyway, so with that, Natasha, you're running for a position on the Umpqua Public Transit District?
I am. I'm running for a position on Umpqua Public Transit, and I'm running on a platform of accountability and to get back into compliance because our district is currently woefully under compliance. And so I'm running to bring things back to Douglas County and ensure that we can keep the ridership that we have currently and grow it as we can.
Tell me about ridership. I mean, how important is Umpqua Public Transit District to our community?
It's huge. If you look at ridership for Douglas County, we have a very strong ridership base, which is fantastic. And students use it to get to college. The employees at UHI use transit consistently to get to work. Friends and family use it to get to doctor's appointments. It's a huge part of our community. You can directly correlate a transportation district and the economy together to see how strong your economy is in your district based on how many routes are running and how often people are getting where they need to go on time.
So with Umpqua Public Transit District, where does the funding come from that props up the district? I know some of it will come from fares, but surely there's not enough fares to prop up the district to buy a bus and, or several buses. So where does that money come from?
It comes from ODOT, so indirectly through FTA. So it comes from the federal government. ODOT is the intermediary that pays the district. The district has to apply every year to, you're really applying every 2 years for a slot amount of money. ODOT dictates that based on population. And so we're kind of given the number. It's not so much that we have the right to say, here's what we'd like to do. It's more that we're given a number and said, here is your number. Please figure out how you'd like to spend the money. We do build projects in case there's additional funding. So if there was an increase in population between this year and next year, or if there was extra funds in the ODOT land, then we'd build projects for those. It'd be really nice if we had a stop here. It'd be really great if we had a shelter in this location rather than just a stop. And so all of those projects are built into what's called the stiff stack plan.
Oh, I've heard of that.
And so we build those stiff stack plans. I'm on the stiff stack committee. I have been for a number of years. I'm also on the budget committee. And I see where our budget is currently and where we need to make some fine tunes so that we are able to ensure that there's ridership, that there's rides for riders to take in upcoming years.
Sure. I got to ask, being a legislator, I see a lot, of course, I think it's no secret ODOT's in trouble. And potentially, depending on what the Trump administration does, ODOT might be in a lot more trouble than they even know they are today. Governor's asking for a couple $2 billion out of our pockets through, taxes and increases in fees and what have you. But one of the things that I see in the Capitol, and I'm adamantly against, is the movement toward green energy. Right. I feel like it's a huge expenditure that's not necessary right now. And going to the extreme of creating electric cars and electric buses, it's not a bad idea. I think capitalism will eventually get to where it's going to be, but being forced into that, how does that play into a transit district? Do you guys have to abide by federal, state regulations when it comes to that stuff?
We do. So what's interesting is even if the Trump administration made drastic changes to the green energy plan,
Mhm.
unless Oregon makes changes to their plan, UPTD still needs to abide by Oregon's requirements.
Okay.
So I believe it's 2030. We're required to have a plan that's headed towards green energy. And busing isn't there yet. You can't run a full day of routes on a green vehicle to date.
So let's prove it.
So I love the idea, and I hope that it continues to move that direction. But it's not there yet. So I don't know what buying vehicles tomorrow that are more expensive, because we need the charging stations. UPTD does have charging stations. They're not installed. We'd have to go through a NEPA process in order to make that process happen. And we're just not there yet.
Never even thought about the NEPA process to install a charging station.
Yeah.
That's another expense that doesn't get talked about. Yeah. Interesting. Trent, you got any questions?
You have a lot of knowledge on Umpqua Transit District and stuff, so dive into that a little deeper.
Yeah. So, I was on the board for a few months, and I will not deny the fact that I did resign when the new general manager was appointed. I spoke a lot in those meetings about the fact that we were woefully under compliance. We were out of compliance, and more than fivefold of any other district in the state of Oregon. And so an average finding is somewhere between 5 and 8, and we had over 40. And so we were woefully out of compliance, and I made it very clear that we needed to hire somebody who understood transportation. It's a very nuanced system.
Right.
You're dealing with the feds and the state, and neither of them make it easy. Right. Just to be honest, it's a very, in the job that I do, we're dictated by OARs and ORSs, and you have to understand all of those systems, and it's very difficult if you don't.
So you bring a lot of that to the table then.
I do. And I'm the person who reads those because I want to understand how those rules work. So
Bless your heart, Frey. Right.
Yeah.
I went to I was there for a little bit of the first meeting with ODOT regarding the findings.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay very long, but I kind of showed up because I'm not a fan of ODOT. I shouldn't say it that way. I am not a fan of ODOT. There, that's said better. No. The reason I'm not a fan of ODOT isn't because of the people, right? I mean, I work with a lot of ODOT folks on different issues and stuff, and they're all great folks, but it's an agency. It's a government agency. So it is ran like that. A lot of bureaucracy and a lot of red tape to get through things that shouldn't cost the time or the money, which is why ODOT, last year they just misplaced $1 billion, and nobody's even been held accountable for losing $1 billion. So anyway, I was kind of wanting to be involved in that just to make sure you guys didn't get picked on. Because frankly, I feel like ODOT, the agency itself is, it's another arm of the governor, and it tends to stay in Portland and Salem, and they take care of all that, not so much rural Oregon. And that's evident in her project labor agreements that she, did this last year that said every project that happens on an ODOT project has to have union labor. Well, we don't have that available in Southern Oregon, which basically put out all of our contractors and said, you guys are not now locked out of the work. Or Eastern Oregon. Yeah. Right. So, that, of course, now has been contested, and it's held up in the courts. But we don't have a lot of time, but tell me, how long have you lived here, and what's your goals for, trying to be part of this?
Yeah, so I have been in Douglas County for almost 8 years. I moved here when I was appointed the executive director of UHI. Our family lives in Sutherland. Our kiddos one has graduated from Sutherland University.
Southern University. I don't remember calling that when I played football, but okay.
One has graduated from Sutherland High School, and the other one is a junior right now. And my goal is to help ensure that transportation exists in 2 years, because it is vitally important for our economy. I think transportation, housing, and the House Listed Project process are all deeply rooted in whether or not our economy succeeds. And so I think that it's important for the voters to elect a board that is looking to ensure that transportation exists 7 years from now and is grown. We need to grow the transportation district, not reduce any services.
Gotcha. Well, with that, Trent, anything else?
No, I was just sitting there on the learning curve. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I wish we had more time. I'd love to spend a lot more time just chatting with you, and I'm sure we will. But I think that I agree with you. I think it's important that the best people be put on that board, because I think it's important that we keep our transportation district. I have to admit, I don't know much about the public transportation district in itself. Just from what I've learned over the last few months, for the most part. So I look forward to learning more, and good luck with your race, and good luck with your campaign, and yeah, we wish you all the best.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
Thanks for being
here. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Natasha Atkinson is running for the Umpqua Transportation District Director position 4.
Welcome back, everybody, to On the Verge, and we have another guest now today that is coming to speak with us. I want to just touch base again before I introduce him that we have special district elections coming up. I believe it's May 20th. You should be getting a ballot in the mail within about a week. There's school board positions, water district positions. This particular one is Umpqua Public Transit District. I believe the majority, if not all, of the available positions coming up on all special districts are all nonpartisan, which is kind of an interesting thing, and in an area that tends to lean a little more toward the conservative side. But anyway, so today we have Phil, and I'm going to have him introduce himself. He is running for a position, I don't know which one it is, but on the Umpqua Public Transit District, and he's asked for a little bit of time, so we're going to give him a few minutes to introduce himself and say what he's up to.
Hi, I'm Phil Morton. I moved to Douglas County in 2017. I moved here to work for the USDA Farm Service Agency, and I left there in 2020. Been living in the community and trying to become more involved in the community. I've taken an interest in the public transportation district as it seems like there's not a lot of transparency. We need to know what's going on there. I know we're out of compliance, and I'd like to be part of helping get back into that. I've worked in with those types of issues before, and I'd like to just give back to the community that I have chosen to spend the rest of my life in.
Sounds great. Now, Phil, you and I met, in 2022, I think, is the first time
That
we
was
met.
it.
When I was running for the House District 2 position, and you kind of helped out with my campaign. At least you passed a good word on it, and I always appreciated that. In fact, this is repayment for that. But you seem to be concerned, like you said, with community issues. What would be, if you were elected into that position, what would be your number one goal?
My number one goal would be to do what I can to help us get back into compliance so that we do not lose the funding that we have. And it's a very tenuous time right now. We need to do everything we can to keep ourselves in line with the policy.
Gotcha. Do you actually, I don't, but do you actually ride the transit system yourself? Have you ever utilized it?
I have ridden the transit system here some. Bit about me is I raised my family, my kids, as a single father in Eugene, Springfield. And through circumstances of life, I spent 6 years without a vehicle.
Oh, so public transit.
Public transit was awesome for me and my kids. We went everywhere we wanted to with public transportation and bicycle in town. Right. That's the Eugene thing, but it worked.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big piece of where our government is headed. I mean, obviously, if you're more over on the environmentalist side, I think they want people to utilize public transit more because it's less cars on the road. Unfortunately, in a county, Douglas County is 5,000 square miles,
Right.
And that's if it's considered flat. So
Yeah.
if you flatten it all out, it'd probably be almost double that. It's really hard to not have a car. I mean,
It is.
yeah. So I think it's important. I think the public transit system here is vitally important, especially when you get into our rural communities. And that's probably the most expensive part, to get from here to, I don't know what the farthest south is, probably Canyonville, maybe Glendale. I don't know. But, do you have any experience in your history on any of this kind of stuff, or other than obviously you've utilized it?
I know folks aren't big on Lane County and stuff like that. But in reality, they have there's a system there that I was able to take my kids to the woods. We could catch a bus and get dropped off on Highway 126 at a stop, go spend the day in the woods and be back there in time to catch a bus to get back to town. I don't know why we can't have that here. It's like something up 138 to drop people up at different spots, go enjoy the day, come back to town.
Right.
I'd like to see, and I'm not sure how well it works, but like transit over to Reedsport. Go spend a day at Reedsport. That helps the businesses if you can get over there. You may not have a car. You want to go to some event that's happening there. Rather than depending on friends or something like that, you could just catch transit, get dropped off in Reedsport. End of the day, come back home.
Yeah, very much so. I also feel like with the development that we're having locally here, I know out on Diamond Lake Boulevard, yeah, there needs to be a way to get to town.
Yeah.
I had one of my colleagues on the in my committee, my environment committee, that was all about putting charging stations at low-income apartment complexes for electric cars, and I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense because most of those folks aren't driving. So, but I can see where they could utilize a bus.
Right. Could utilize a bus.
Yeah, I don't think the charger would.
The charging stations, you're talking low-income housing and very dense population there. Unfortunately, most of those folks can't afford an electric vehicle.
Right.
So why go through the expense of putting charging stations in a place where there's going to be very limited use?
Yeah, I said that to him, and he sent me over a picture of it was like a Chevy Volt, like a 10-year-old Chevy Volt for sale for $8,000, and I'm like, well, that's $8,000 gets the car, another 10 buys the batteries to hang to replace it. So I go, yeah. Trey, you have any questions?
Well, I kind of like the way he was framing that, because one of the things when we were in high school, you went to UCC and I've done classes out there. Mm-hmm. Gas was cheap. I had a muscle car when I was that age. You could afford to drive to UCC. I see a lot of kids in your and I's hometown. We both live in Winston, and catching the bus there at Abby's, going to UCC. So it helps that. But the other thing too, that is interesting too, is it's also a provider of jobs. I have several clients in my company that actually drive for Umpqua Transit. And I think that's an important thing, that expansion is jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. So Phil, I don't know what the actual number is of registered voters that would be eligible to vote for this particular district. I believe it's the whole county. So I think it's 110,000 people in the county. I want to say there was like 65,000 or something like that were registered. If today I could leave them one word that describes Phil Morton, what would that be? And why would that be? And don't just tell me how pretty you are.
Well, that's a given. I don't know if I can do that in one word, but I can say that I am nonpartisan, middle of the line, looking for the best for everybody, because it can't be one way or the other. We have to work and live together.
Gotcha. So compassionate.
Yeah.
Compassionate works. All right. That sounds good. What's your education background? I should ask that too. People need to know Phil Morton.
My education, and there's a little bit about me, is I grew up in Springfield, Illinois. It was the state capital. And I grew up in town. My dad had a little piece of ground that he shared with people, and we had animals to feed. It just happened to be close to the high school, so I could take care of that. But there was public transportation there.
Okay.
At an early age, I was able to jump on a bus a half a block from my house and go downtown and go buy my first pair of Converse sneakers. I saved that money for that. There was transportation there. Then I went to school at Southeastern Illinois College for forestry.
Okay.
And that's what brought me to Oregon. I spent my first 4 years in Oregon in Lake County, of all places, in Paisley. When I moved there, I think the population was 290. Ish. Yep. One of my greatest friends today is from there. He's now up in the Willamette Valley.
Right.
And I worked for the Forest Service for a number of years. Left the Forest Service to try and devote more time to family because I was in fire management, which had me gone all the time, and that wasn't working with two little kids.
Yeah.
And I left and went back to Illinois, and life brought me back to Oregon and had me as a single father for a lot of years. And I went back to school again to retool myself for architectural design. And that led me back to agriculture.
Okay, I'm already feeling dumb here. You're way smarter than me. So
I've spent most of my life working in agriculture and around good salt of the earth people.
Good. Well, I have to tell our audience a secret, and this is going to come as a surprise to most, but so here about a month ago, Phil and myself and Trent were all sitting down at Looking Glass Brewery, our favorite watering hole. And if you've never tried Looking Glass Brewery, you owe it to yourself to go there. It's the best beer in the state. And Mark Nunley, that owns the place, is just a super good guy, and so is his wife. We were sitting there talking about putting together podcasts. And I said, we really need to do a podcast because people in the community need to know more. We need to get information out. And Trent and I were going back and forth, and I think either I said it or Trent said it. We need a name. We need a name for the podcast. And Phil looks at me and he says, how about On the Verge? Bam. That was it. Well, here we are. We're on the verge. Stuff polarized. We didn't even need to give it a second thought. That was
Done deal.
So Phil, thank you for naming the podcast for us. So yeah, and thank you for coming on. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about you, and we'll look forward to seeing the race and how things turn out. And congratulations on getting in it. And thank you for it takes sacrifice to do these kind of things. So good luck.
Thank you.
So, all right. With that, we'll catch our next guest.
Phil Morton is running for the Umpqua Transportation District Director, position 7.
Are going to continue with our special districts campaign folks that are coming in and they're campaigning for these different locations or different positions, I should say, on different special districts. We're open to anybody that wants to come on the show and talk about their campaign. There's several school district positions open, water district positions, and Umpqua Public Transit District. There's tons of them out there, and I think it's important that people get involved in their community. And again, this is a nonpartisan position that we're going to talk about today with our next guest. And so I'm excited to announce our next guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself first, and I'll tell you a little bit of history that I know about her, and she can go ahead.
So Gina Beam, I'm the executive director with Glider Revitalization, and I'm running for the Transportation Board.
Cool. The thing is you and I go back a ways, and we, unfortunately, with this recent flood, we've gotten to be even more familiar because you've been in Salem quite a bit.
I have.
We don't want to completely talk about all of that. We want to talk about your campaign, but just tell the audience, I suppose, why are you involved in the flood? What are you doing with the flood help program?
Yeah, so Glider Revitalization is the long-term recovery group for the entire county. When Archie Fire happened in 2020, we needed to set up a long-term recovery group, and what happens is because we're unincorporated, that gets designated a RAM through the county. We were just kind of talking about the fact that we've wrapped up a lot of casework and we're reaching the end of where it needed to be active about the month before the flood event happened. Right. At which case, then there was a new disaster, and immediately we were asked, can you guys stand up and handle this again? And of course we said yes. It's led to a little bit of confusion because people see Glide Revitalization and they think, oh, well, that's just Glide. But no, we are serving the entire county. So we got asked to come in and take on casework. Right now, we have over 140 houses that are on a list that have needs right now, as well as over 500 houses that were impacted. And that's all the way, from Glendale up to Drain. Glide has some impacts. Ours are more severely roads and some severe landslides. But we are handling not only the day-to-day phone calls and talking to people about what's going on, but trying to lobby really, really hard to get some funding.
Right.
And you and I have talked about that a lot.
That's what we've been doing. Yeah. I believe I know we've got a little bit of funding coming to help with the county in disposal for some of the dumpsters, but then I have about 2.7 million that we've been asked for to, and it's making its way through the processes of the state, and agencies and bureaucracy and red tape are amazing in Oregon. It's always there. So hopefully we can get all that through. I think one of the misnomers of the whole flood that people don't realize is that when the water came up, it came up for a while, it went back down, and then it's gone. And people don't realize the long-term damage that it really caused to a house. You want to talk a little bit about that?
When you start looking at where this was impacted and who was impacted, a lot of people, we were calling it a flood, right? So it was a high water event. A lot of what happened was infrastructure was overwhelmed. When you have that quantity of water come up that fast, our ditches, our culverts, all of that stuff is not prepared to handle it. And then this is really a bigger issue, is it's a trickle-down effect from the fires in 2020. Our private landowners, as well as our timber industry, has done an amazing job of reforesting, replanting, and salvaging. I cannot say the same for the state and federal land, and all of that is ending up in the river. So the erosion control isn't there. We're seeing huge amounts of debris come down the river, and all of that ended up obviously coming through into town. So you get a little bit of water in your house, say a couple of inches. Anything that water touched needs ripped out. A lot of people opened up the house and decided, well, we're going to dry it out and it'll be fine. And now they have mold 6 feet up the walls. Remediation had to take place, and it had to take place quickly. And this is where this whole process is not only frustrating but heartbreaking, is people couldn't afford it. I had a phone call the other day with an elderly couple on a fixed income living in Green who had enough water come into the house that it was right below the power outlets, and that is what designates whether or not it's a major impact. So if it hit those electrical outlets, it's considered a major impact. Well, this didn't. It did take out their HVAC, their hot water, their drywall, their insulation, their flooring, anything that was fabric, so the couches, the sofas, all of that. And they don't have the money. Just the remediation for under the house to clean out the ducts, the quote was $11,000.
Right.
They live on a very tight fixed income. One of them is a veteran. And unfortunately, my answer right now is there is no funding. I don't have designated funding coming from the feds or the state yet to be able to meet these needs. So it's a lot of fielding those phone calls and trying to give people tools, which mostly is get it cleaned out.
I know on that Sunday, the flood really hit the hardest there. I was on my way back to Salem, and I actually contacted the governor direct myself, and she assured me that they would do everything within their power to help out. We needed the declaration of disaster first, so that we could say, okay, now the state can kind of step in. That all happened, but frankly, from what I understand, not a lot of people have reported that they're in need, and we have to hit a threshold to actually, so that all has to be recorded, and that's your job, is to make sure that you record all that to get it to that point where you can start getting federal money.
Yeah, so it's contacting us or filling out the form online to make sure that data is captured. And so the numbers that were reported out as far as major impacts are where that has to happen. And I'm not sure 100% where we are currently on that threshold, but I know that everyone, the county, the emergency manager, and then also now Harney County is all working together with us to see if we can get those numbers where they need to be in order to hit those thresholds.
Yeah, my understanding is Harney County, Douglas County, Curry County, or Coos County. Yeah, the combination should get us over the threshold. And I'm also told, I know because I put the request in myself, that I know we have some state funds that are hopefully coming our way. But I'm glad you touched on the reason behind why the flood was so devastating. I do believe that of the Archer Creek fire and other fires we've had, we have just done a horrible job of replanting. And sooner or later, we knew that stuff was going to come down the mountain. And unfortunately, we didn't know it was all going to come in one day. But
right. So glider revitalization helped put a little over 400,000 seedlings in the ground. Private landowners the first few years after Archie fire. Unfortunately, we also had some unusually hot weather,
yeah.
Drought conditions, all of that. And, the canopy's gone. So these seedlings had a horrible time trying to survive.
Right.
We had a lot of die-off. But the biggest impact is that the state and federal land is, we've got to get stuff replanted. But not only that, it's removing those hazard trees and doing that salvage and not letting all of that end up in the river.
Yeah, for sure. I know our commissioners are working overtime, literally trying to make up what's going on here, trying to help out. And I've been in touch with them almost daily since the flood, and you've been in that mix too. You've actually came to Salem a couple times. So, I mean, it's a group effort, and I'm really glad to see that the county and the community is reaching out and trying to do the right thing. I want to touch one more thing real quick, and then I want you to talk about your campaign. But Sasquatch Festival.
Yeah.
So you're involved in that?
Yeah, we run the Glide Sasquatch Festival. This is our 4th year. We started it, well, the original board and organization wanted to find a way to have a kind of a fun festival out in the Glide area and get people out there. How do we drive economic growth? How do we get people seeing that, yes, we still have restaurants and stuff out here? Then COVID hit, put everything on the back burner. And then, we wrapped that up and we decided, hey, what would be real fun is a massive fire. And so we did that. We got through that.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Some people have different definitions of fun.
Hey, you forgot to tell everybody you're a firefighter.
Yeah. I'm also, a paramedic and work at a volunteer fire department. So we got through all that and we said, we got to get people back out here. We got to show that not everything is burned. We need some kind of economic boost because people are not driving through. They're not coming through to do the tourism stuff. And so we did this. The first year we expected 500 people and we had 2,500, which we were not ready for. Last year we ended up with a little over 4,500 people. We're expecting more than that this year. We've continued to grow it every year. We have Coffee Anderson coming as the headliner band.
Nice.
Which I'm super excited about.
Cool.
Buffalo Speedway will be back also as another band that came in from Idaho last year that was phenomenal. And then some local bands too that have been great. And we're looking at the potential of actually bringing at least one timber games focused event to the festival this year. So trying to get it together to do like a crosscut saw competition at the festival this year.
Those are fun.
Yeah, it would be really fun. Just excited.
Easy stuff.
Right?
No,
I mean, you're
it's
going to
not
compete,
easy.
right?
I've done it.
Yeah. Well, perfect. We'll enter you in it.
No, you won't.
I feel like I need yeah.
I'm too old. No, that's fantastic. I attended. I attended last year to the dinner, and I think I went to one other one too. It's a really neat event. I'm glad that it's thriving. Your message about trying to get people to understand that Glide didn't burn up. I was on those fires with you as well. I was actually one of the first responders that morning of the Arch Creek fire. And with Sheriff's Department Search and Rescue, we were evacuating people. And as we went along, reading the Facebook posts that were going on, it's like the city of Glide has burned down. The Ottawa store is no longer in existence. And then what was the other store up the river? Dry Creek. Yeah. Dry Creek is gone. And then somebody posts Diamond Lake is gone. Well, it just happened to be I was patrolling that day. So I took a picture of my search and rescue truck with red and blue lights on flashing in front of Ottawa store. And I posted, no, the store is not burned down. And it got like 500 likes and I don't know how many shares, about that many shares like within the first hour. Yeah. And then I went on up to Dry Creek and then actually I went all the way up to Diamond Lake. The sheriff asked us to go up there and just, kind of patrol the area to make sure there wasn't any looting going on. And, the fire never even got close to Diamond Lake, right? So the message is Glide is still thriving and it is actually doing quite well. And thank you for all your efforts. I like what I see. But anyway, I don't want to waste too much time. I want to get into your campaign. I still have a few minutes here. So tell us about you and why you're running for Umpqua Public Transit District.
I've grown up here, lived here my whole life. The majority of the time was spent in Glide, but also some in Green. My daughter is a junior in high school and my son graduated from Glide High School, which is also where I graduated from. I'm not going to give you the year, but it was further away than I'm comfortable with at this point.
You're not as old as me.
Right? There's that.
Maybe a long ways from me.
Are we both? Yeah.
One of the challenges we face out in Glide is that people don't have reliable transportation. And whether it's me hiring people or just helping people stay in their jobs, a lot of the employers and stuff we talk to too, it's also a problem. Right. And I think that the transit system is essential to that. If we're going to see economic growth continue in this area, we already have a large retirement population and we need to support the working population. And for me, the transportation district is essential to that. Right. We need to make sure that it's sustainable and that it's going to be here for a long time and that it has a culture of its board and employees and everything collaboration. So working with the different agencies, even if they're hard to get along with, to make sure that it's successful.
Fantastic. Well, I don't have a lot of questions, but I know you do a lot of things, and so this will be adding to the list of crazies. And much like myself, I volunteer for as much as I can to keep my spare time occupied, which I don't have much spare time.
Right.
But tell us one thing about you that would make me say, I am voting for Gina Beam.
I do the right thing even when it's hard. I've lost friends. I've walked away from jobs. I've walked away from people that I've known majority of my life and were once close with if I get to the point that I don't think that they're doing the right thing. I not only believe in doing that even when it's hard, but I don't stay quiet about it. If I see something or a situation that I believe isn't right, I think I have a responsibility to say something. And I've tried really hard to stick to that. It's not always easy, and sometimes it may take me a while to actually get the nerve to stand up and say it, but I believe in integrity.
And I've seen that in you as being one of your close friends. You're one of my close friends too. So I gotta say, one thing I really like about you is we spend a lot of time together on business and stuff, but we're also friends. And Gina's been to those fire calls. You've been to those car wrecks. You've been to those, rescues in the mountains and stuff. And I've done the same with search and rescue and everything. So we can sit around with your boyfriend as well, because he's also a firefighter. We can all sit around and talk about the craziest stuff. And people just look at us like we're nuts. It's like, how do you guys deal with that? Somebody died. You can't do that. How do you do it? It's like, well, that's what we do. That's what we do every day, when we're working on that kind of stuff. And, as a first responder, we don't always get a chance to talk about that stuff with people that understand it. And there's a lot you can't say, right? There's a lot of stuff that I've done in the last 25 years of being part of search and rescue that I just don't talk about because people wouldn't understand it. And it might either hurt their feelings, offend them, or make them sick. But Gina, I can say anything I want. She's like, yeah, I've been there, done that, seen it. So, I appreciate that about you. So, Trent?
I like the activeness of your background. Like Virgil said, spare time, that's the other guy's problem, because that's kind of what we do. We're on to the next thing, and, supporting, especially as the chair of the Sunset Committee, that's kind of our goal, is to help people get involved. And it's not a Republican or a Democrat thing. I think in this case, it's more philanthropic, and I think that's a responsibility not that everybody wants to fulfill because it's work.
Yeah.
And it's thankless.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just I appreciate everything you guys are doing too, and I think this is great. I think giving people a chance to hear more about the background of everything is going on is absolutely essential to understanding, and also collaboration. You said this is not a partisan position, but I think nationwide we have to shift our focus to an attitude of working together, not being divisive.
Right. Yeah, amen to that. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
And I look forward to having you on again in the future. We'll talk more about the Sasquatch Festival, I'm sure. And Glide Revitalization is a really awesome piece of our community that's doing some really good things. So, all right, well, take care.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Gina Beam is running for the Umpqua Transportation District Director position 6.
Is your 4x4 ready for the trail? Twin Peaks Off-Road is your first stop for maintenance, repairs, and custom upgrades. From differential services to winch installs, we do it all. Fast, reliable, and built for adventure. Don't wait for breakdowns in the backcountry. Call Twin Peaks Off-Road today at 541-900-0015 or visit twinpeaksoffroad.net. Keep your 4x4 off the roads and in the adventure.
Well, welcome back. And this is the last segment of our show for today. And I want to just get into some politics because I am your representative from House District 2, and Trent is our Republican Central Committee chair. So there's just a whole lot going on in Salem right now. And this morning I woke up in kind of a not very good mood because I got my list of bills that were talking about taxes. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I'm thinking that you're not really in favor of spending a bunch of your tax money. And if you recently saw the response the Republican Party had to the ODOT potential transportation package, which was some crazy high taxes, 40 cents a gallon on your gas, increase in payroll tax, increase in tire tax. That was bad enough. But I'm going to show you a list. We're not going to go through every one of them, but I have a list here of 21 new bills that are still highly active in the House right now. And every one of these 21 bills increase your taxes on something. Just to give you some ideas, the House Bill 2072 is a forest harvest tax. Every one of these affects us in different ways. House Bill 2153 is a tax on jet fuel, which means to go somewhere, take off from Portland or Salem or wherever you're flying from is going to cost you more to buy your plane ticket. I mean, the list goes on. And I'll just tell you, I don't see how the good people of Oregon can afford this much of a tax increase. I've been looking at some of the numbers of what we're paying, and it's amazing to me that the economy hasn't completely crashed.
Right.
And this would do it. This literally, I feel like this would be the straw that breaks the camel's back if all of these taxes were to pass. Now, of course, if you understand politics, this has to get through the House. All tax bills start in the House.
Right.
They all require a minimum of 36 votes. The Democrats have 36 members. Republicans have 24. Democrats are down one right now, but they're going to need some Republican buy-in, I think, because there are some seats that are very vulnerable if they were to pass some of these taxes. Happy to talk to anybody if they ever do want to contact my office. Happy to send you this list. We're happy to go through it with you. But some of this is just crazy. Trent, what are you hearing out there?
Exactly what you're saying. Everybody, they're afraid of the new tax, and it's not a party thing. It's everybody. Give you an example. You're talking about the timber sale tax. Mm-hmm. I was in Home Depot a week ago, and a sheet of plywood that's not of quality was $50. And how can a person afford to build a house?
Those used to be $8.50.
Yeah, not that long ago.
I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got people worried. You know, if the 40 cent a gallon gas tax comes in, we now go from what, 6 or 7 highest?
We will be number one.
To be number one, higher than California.
Yeah, I looked that up a little while ago. We are number 11 right now in the country, highest taxes on gas, and that will put us up to number 1.
Yeah.
And right now, number 1 spot is held by California. 70 cents a gallon is what they're paying for gas taxes. And we already pay 40 cents a gallon, so another 40 puts us right there. It puts us above them. There's also a tax here, House Bill 3940, which is an interesting tax. It's a 5 cent per bottle tax that is going to be used to help pay for wildfire. And for those that followed this, there was what's called the Fire 35. It was a group that was put together with firefighters and legislators, and there's 35 people in this committee. And they came up with different ways to fund firefighting. As you know, in 2024, we burned 2 million acres of land. We ran up a tab of over 280 million, I think it was, and couldn't afford to pay it. So we had our firefighters at the first part of the 25. We're not getting paid, so we did call special session and we got the firefighters paid. But the state has no way to fund it. Now, technically, there is plenty of money in the general funds to do this, and the governor's budget funds 150 million of it. But they would like to pick up the rest of it with taxes, and they want to pick up 5 cents of it, which is going to create. It was I don't remember the dollar amount. It was a ton of money. That now Oregon has the number 1 bottle program in the country. Our recycle rate it's in the high 90s. I mean, there's no other state that does it as good as we do. This is just one more thing they want to add to it and take from. And I voted no on it in committee. Right now it's down in, I think it's either in Revenue or Ways and Means. And I hope that it comes out with it should come out with an amendment that hopefully at least takes that part out of it. Because we do have to pay for wildfire, but there's plenty of money in lottery. There's plenty of money in general funds, but the governor does not want to take that money. So it's just beside me what this legislature wants to do right now.
Right.
I also, if you follow me online, and you've seen some of my recent rants that I do. I like to call out the legislature on things, and hypocrisy seems to be the latest thing right now. We are passing bills as fast as we can pass them to do things that are better for the environment. Take away the PFAS and take away the styrofoam. And last week I was sitting in my office in Salem, and I look out my window, and there's literally truckloads of styrofoam being delivered to go in underneath the building, and then they rock over the top of it, and then they cement over the top of that. I don't even understand why they need to use it, but so on the House floor, I had a remonstrance about that. I was like, in Oregon, I think we call it hypocrisy, right? Yeah. I mean, we'll pass an abortion bill so that we can save, or so that we can kill babies. But then now we're trying to pass we're trying to ban flavored cigarettes so we can keep young kids from getting addicted and not die. So it's like, I don't understand it. And I had a long talk about, why are we passing all these environment bills? And then yet we're in our own capital, we're putting in literally thousands of styrofoam pieces.
Right.
It's just crazy what goes on. And so hypocrisy is horrible. But what are your thoughts?
I'll tell you one of the things I like, and I like about you as our state representative, is you don't say they, you say we. So you're taking ownership of that. And I think you guys that are out there understand that puts him in the fight and gives him a dog in the fight. And I, as your friend, I appreciate that.
I mean, I'm part of the legislature. It doesn't matter if I'm a Republican or a Democrat. When we pass bills, I may have voted no on it, but I'm still part of it. Right? And the nice thing is that's the voice that gets to be heard, right? So they may win the battle, they being the other part of our team, our colleagues across the aisle, but they're going to earn every single bit of it from me. And I'm going to be a little political in this segment because I can. It is my podcast, and some people don't like that. If you don't like the way I talk about politics, then you go start your own podcast. There's a great company, Little Mill Media, right here. They do our podcast for us, and they're pretty bipartisan, actually nonpartisan, I'd say, and they tolerate us. So you know what, we love them. I wanted to just talk about a few other things. So let's kind of talk about how the state rates. And I got this little booklet in the mail from one of our tax folks. And this is interesting information. Most people don't realize that $22.86 per gallon of hard alcohol that's sold in the state is tax. We're the number 4 in the nation for tax. So when you're buying, a fifth of whiskey, you're probably paying $6 a bottle, or $5 and change of that bottle is actually going to the state for taxes. Right. And I don't think I just think these are just some things that people need to know. We talked about gas tax, income tax. We are number 1 in the nation for income tax. Per capita, $3,123. We are the highest. That's pretty sad. We also ranked in the bottom for our schools. Which doesn't correlate to that, but it's just another thing. And here's a good one, and I've talked about this before. Federal aid, the federal money that comes into the state is 37.7% of our overall budget.
Right.
So when our current president, when Mr. Trump talks about he's going to either make states comply or they're not going to get their federal funding, think about that. I mean, out of $70 billion or whatever our budget is for the year, we're going to lose almost 40% of it, potentially. And that's going to hurt our schools. It's going to hurt our transportation. It's going to hurt everything. Or we could just comply. I could go into a lot of detail on taxes. I don't want to go into too much, but I do want to touch real quick on, and I got to look at a note, on the transportation package. Now, the transportation package they were trying to tax us on about $1 billion worth of taxes. And if you follow again on the news, you saw that we had our Republican response on April 30th. And we came out and we talked about ways to find $750 million right off the bat. And it did not cut any jobs out of ODOT, did not cut any services out of ODOT, but it just simply rebalanced where they're spending the money and took away projects that they haven't spent a bunch of money on, that are potential money projects to spend in the future, that they're actually allocating money for, that money is there, but it's federal projects. So we're saying, look, if you haven't spent it, it's been there over 2 years, put it back in the general fund.
Right.
And then we'll kick this can down the road without raising taxes on everybody. And then at some point we can revisit this thing, when ODOT, we're asking for them to basically account for where they spend their money. And we'll see what happens at this point. We have not heard a Democrat response to that, so we don't know where they're going to go with it. But, there's no way that this state can afford, and the constituents in this district as well can afford the taxes that they're asking us to pay.
Right.
Last, I just want to touch on another tax that is this one just came across my desk this week. I think we're going to be seeing this one in one of my committees. We're talking about raising the jet fuel tax from 3 cents a gallon to 8 cents a gallon. And everybody's like, well, that's not that much money. Well, Alaska Airlines uses 1 billion gallons of jet fuel a year just out of Portland.
Yep.
So, and Portland's their hub. So they're the ones that are going to get hit the hardest with this. And this also will be tied to the consumer price index. So as the consumer price index goes up, the tax goes up with it. Originally that increase was only going to be for 3 cents a gallon. And then, they raised it to, from 3 to 8. So, the intent here is that money will be spent back on rural airports to upgrade some of the rural airports and do that type of work. But the fact is, that's a lot of money, and we're all going to see it in the price of our tickets. We're going to see, and sadly, Alaska, along with some of the other airlines, just spent, I don't know, it was close to $1 billion on renovating the Portland airport.
Yeah.
And the thanks that we're going to give them is now we're going to tax them to death, and then. I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but the last thing I'll do, I don't want to bore everybody to death, but you probably already heard that Portland is being looked at for getting a sports team, a new baseball team, Major League Baseball team. It only is going to cost $800 million, which nobody has. And just so everybody understands how that works. So what the team is asking for is they're saying, look, we'll get the investors to build this. I've seen the blueprints on it. It's a pretty neat coliseum. We'll do it. We'll bring in all the players and the games. And what they're asking for is for the state to not charge income tax on anybody associated with it until their investors are paid back. So they're asking the state to pause on $800 million for the taxes to put that in. I had a chance to speak with the governor direct myself. He came into our committee. And I'm not a fan of making Portland a better place when we could be spending money in Southern Oregon personally, but this isn't something that's going to be directly out of pocket. But my very first comment to him was, I said, look, if you're planning on doing this, you have got to invest in your police force. You've got to invest in the crime problem, and you've got to get the streets cleaned up. And I go, if that couldn't happen as part of this package, I would be adamantly against it. Right. Also, another thing I brought up in committee was, I don't know where you plan on getting the parking, and I don't know, how you plan on dealing with the amount of traffic that is going to, be part of this. But the Coliseum is going to be built right on the waterfront, just down a little bit farther down the river from where the Marriott is there. So it's already a congested area anyway. But there's a lot happening in state politics right now, and I'll leave you with this. And Trent might want to comment on it. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter to me. But right now, we are facing a lot of issues in the state. The number one issue right now, I think, that we're facing in the House is we have literally 21 new taxes plus all of the taxes for the transportation district. That is a problem for everybody. That is a problem for the Democrats. That is a problem for the Republicans. Nobody wants to vote on it. You've also got a situation where you're looking at a whole bunch of really bad gun bills, right? Those gun bills didn't happen from the Republican Party. I'm sorry. They happened because somebody thought it was a good idea. And then on top of that, you have some union labor bills that are just really, really going to be hard on, there's on rural Oregon particularly, because there's one that's a farm workers union bill. And then there's another one that's a home care worker union bill that's going to increase the price of home health care work and you've got just a litany of really bad things. And we're through all the fun stuff, right? All the easy stuff, all the, you hear about 90% of the bills we agree on. That ended about a week ago. Everything from here on out is going to make decisions for future politics. So if you're a yes vote on some of these, you're probably going to lose your seat, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. So if you don't follow Oregon politics and you really want to see it get hot, I would say for the next 59 days, because that's how many days we have left before you're safe from taxes. The sine die is whatever it is, June 30th, I think, or June 29th is the last day we can possibly have session by statute. So I can't wait for it to get here. Hopefully we can do less damage between now and then. So anyway, that's all. That's my summary of politics today. And Trent, do you have anything you want to add to that before we let everybody go for the day?
Yeah, I just like to say, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. If they propose those taxes go through, life in Oregon becomes no longer what we can afford. And I've heard many big company people say, we're out of here, and which furthers the damage. Yeah. So I would say for those people that vote that way, those are the people that want that. Call them, tell them we don't want that.
Yes, I agree. And call your representative or text. Well, you won't be able to text them necessarily. Call your representative, email them, hard mail them. I will tell everybody, if you're going to send an email, change the subject header, right? Don't have people send 500 emails that all say vote no on, House Bill 3148 or whatever it is. Say this is, just put your name in the subject header and we will open it. We will look at it. We will see it. And it matters. If you have hundreds of people opposed to a bill, you can't ignore that. Right. If you have 2, then it's going to pass. So I'll leave you with that today. Thank you guys. Thanks for everybody for supporting our podcast. We're growing in numbers. Please like and follow us. We're on what are we on? We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We are on Amazon Music and Apple Music, I believe, as well as a host of other ones. We love what we do. Follow us, and we are going to continue to be very transparent. We're not going to be partisan. We're going to be transparent. You're going to know what's going on in state politics, and you're going to know what's going on in local politics as well, local government. I want to thank our folks that are putting this on for us, Little Mill Media. I mentioned them earlier. Justin and Garrett, they do a fantastic job of getting us all together, and it's like herding cats, I'm sure, but we appreciate that. And thank you for Twin Peaks for sponsoring us. We're open for sponsorship and hoping for more. And let's keep this thing rolling and keep government open and transparent. Thank you all and have a great day.